How many times have you made it to the weekend and looked back at your week and thought, where did my week go? How did it fly by so quickly? Our lives, particularly our work lives, can feel like they've happened to us rather than something that we have actually done. And we feel like we haven't done enough. We feel like we've been pulled along by emails and meetings and obligations, but then don't actually have time for the real work that we think that we need to be able to do. Well, the good news is there are ways that we can reclaim our week. And this isn't through discipline. This isn't some sort of video on how to be more disciplined at work. This is a video about how to cultivate greater intention in how we work. It isn't about working harder, it's about working in a more mindful, present way so that we're able to flourish professionally and don't drive ourselves into the ground. I am Professor Alan Johnson, and this is the Thinking Life, where ideas meet everyday life for mind, work, and personal growth. Early in my career, I tried a little experiment. I spent a week writing down everything that I did, every task, every meeting, every book that I read, even small little distractions. This was the era of Farmville, so quite a lot of my paper was just played Farmville and harvested the wheat. Um, that was really, really informative for me because I realized after a few days that I was spending nearly half of my working week on reactive activities. Scrolling for inspiration, harvesting that wheat, reading emails that I didn't need to be reading, doing things that weren't getting me closer to my objectives at work. And ultimately, I was only creating a fraction of what I wanted to do during my working week. So this isn't about getting rid of breaks or downtime. This isn't about turning you into a machine where you sit down at your desk from 9 to 5 and you power through. This is about creating healthy spaces for breaks and moments of recharge during our working days. So I decided to pair that time audit, and I'll talk more about how you can do your own time audit in a moment. I paired that time audit that I did, where I saw how I was actually spending my time, with a practice known as time intending. So this is really simple. After seeing really clearly how you're spending your time by tracking it hour by hour by hour, the next week, you then do the opposite thing. You intend your time in advance. You say when you're going to be doing which task and which thing that you most want to prioritize. And that combination of step one, doing a time audit, and step two, doing time intending, is surprisingly powerful. So let's first of all dive into step one, starting with a time audit where you are looking at the reality versus the ideal. We have a tendency to try to jump toward an ideal work schedule or an ideal work-life balance. We're not going to get there if we don't yet know what the reality is. So this is what our time audit is for. Because time is really, truly, honestly invisible. Time isn't something that we see sort of whooshing by. We use tools such as clocks, watches, calendars, diaries to help us create an illusion of the tangibility of time. Okay, there's a whole psychological and philosophical inheritance that talks about time as a construct. And before we can really use our time effectively, we need to know how we're using it now. So, this is the way that we do this. What you need is a piece of paper, a spreadsheet, an app that does this as well. You can download worksheets. I'll link some of those below. And for a week, writing down everything that you are doing in a 30-minute block or a 60-minute block. You can choose. If you focus it down into 30 minutes, that's sometimes better. But just writing it down, almost as if you are an auditor who's looking at your own use of time. Did you spend 30 minutes responding to an email? Did you spend an hour staring out the window? Did you spend 45 minutes scrolling through Instagram and ultimately feeling a little bit worse because of it? Just write these down without judgment. Okay, this isn't the point where we are saying, I should have been more productive. I should have gotten that project done by Tuesday afternoon. No, we're not doing that. We are just allowing ourselves to notice the patterns without judgment. This is about clarity. This is not about shame. So do that for a week. What you're going to find is not only that you get a whole bunch of really useful data, and we'll get to what we do with that data in a moment, but it also begins to cultivate a greater sense of awareness of how you are using time. So if you have to write down how you've used every hour in your 9 to 5 working week, that is going to be building up that muscle of you being able to observe and witness how your time is being spent. That is going to come in handy a little bit later down the road. So step 1 is starting with a time audit without judgment, just writing down for a week what you've done every hour. Step number 2, and this happens in the second week. This is when you introduce time intending. So you start with that same blank spreadsheet or table that lists the days of the week and the working hours. Instead of writing down what you have done during them, you, on Sunday night or at the end of Friday the week before, you flip it around and you write down what you intend to do in those slots. A really useful and valuable way to approach this is identifying 3 to 5 anchor activities for the week. Those really important tasks that you need to get done. Where are you going to put those in? Block those in your calendar first. If you use Outlook or iCal to schedule your work life, then do your time intending there. Schedule these tasks like they are meetings, even if it's just you at your computer thinking or writing something or preparing slides for a meeting or doing analysis of sales data. Put that into your diary like it is a meeting that you are going to with yourself. What you'll find then is that you still have plenty of time within your day to put in flexible blocks for reactive tasks like the email that comes through or the admin. You are scheduling those reactive tasks around the core tasks of the week. What you'll also find as well is that you're probably going to be able to take proper lunch breaks. So rather than, trying to de-stress by mindlessly scrolling social media for 40 minutes when you should be doing something else, think about how much more empowered you will feel if you know that you have time in your day where you're going to be taking a full hour lunch break and you're not just going to be mindlessly feeding the algorithm. You're going to do something really great and sustainable and exciting with it. You're going to go on that great walk outside. You're going to go to the gallery next to your office and look at their new exhibition. You're going to go to a coffee shop with a book that you enjoy reading. Plan your breaks as well when you're doing time intending. So the third part of this as well, this is week 3. So you have in week 1 done a time audit. In week 2, you've done time intending. In week 3, you're going to be creating rituals to track and reflect on this. So Friday afternoons are really, really great time to reflect on how you've spent the week that has just gone. But maybe you don't have time on Friday afternoon. Maybe Friday afternoons are spent, getting everything done for the weekend. That's fine. Save yourself 30 minutes, 20 minutes on Sunday night where you are able to reflect in your diary. Sometimes we think, I want to save Saturday and Sunday, no work whatsoever. I'll do work 9 a.m. Trust me when I say that if we spend 20 minutes or 30 minutes on Sunday night just looking at our diary for the week ahead, just planning out when we are going to achieve our biggest tasks, we will sleep better. We will get over the Sunday scaries and we will go into work on Monday morning not having to sit and think, what am I going to do? I am going to open up Pinterest, or I'm going to go on Vinted and look at new shirts. Or if we were Alan 15 years ago, play Farmville and harvest your wheat. So turn this reflection into a weekly ritual. Notice patterns. Did you underestimate the length of time that it takes you to prepare a presentation or to analyze data? Did you overcommit to meetings? Did you spend too long on low priority tasks? Notice these patterns. They will jump out at you. Trust me. By the time that you've been paying attention to your schedule for 3 weeks in this way, you will begin to see the patterns. Once you begin to notice the patterns, decide on just one small adjustment that you can make for next week. Just experiment in aligning the reality of your working day with your intention. If you want to explore these practices in a supportive creative environment, I'm running my Artist's Way Circle this autumn, 12 weeks, where we are going to be diving into things such as time audits and creative exercises and reflective rituals, things that I have learned from many of my teachers of the year, that I've learned from Julia Cameron's great book, The Artist's Way, and things that I have developed in my own creative and professional practice. I'll pop a link into the description below if you want to explore more about that. Our time audit, so when we observe how we're actually using our time, it shows us our working life as it actually is. Time intending then allows us to begin to design our time as we want it to be. We need both of these. We can't begin manifesting the working life that we want if we don't, first of all, know how we're actually spending our time. And if we're not beginning to develop a sense of awareness and intention with how we are spending our time. Once we begin to do that, once we have begun to observe how we are spending our time, once we are beginning to design how we want to spend our time through our time intending, our reflective rituals begin to create a feedback loop. So spending that 20 minutes or 30 minutes on a Friday afternoon or a Sunday evening to notice the patterns and to optimize in the week ahead is going to help us to adjust course and to reclaim our energy. Again, this isn't about us just working flat out from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. We can't do that. There's no point in doing that. Instead, it's about developing a greater awareness toward our use of time, to not just allow time mindlessly slip by. Find those practices during your working week that recharge you, those breaks, those moments away from the desk, those outings during your lunch break, those afternoon breaks where you are able to really actively recharge and refill the well. Because just mindlessly scrolling the news online isn't filling you with that sense of joy and purpose that you need. Instead, find the things that do fill you with your joy and purpose that you're looking for in your working week. And I would love to hear, pop in the comments below, what is that sort of that micro intention that you're setting for next week? Are you are you going to do the time audit next week? Are you going to do time intending next week? Share it in the comments. I read all of them. And if you want a structured, creative way to practice tools like this and a whole bunch more, please do sign up for my Artist's Way Circle. It's going to be a really, really fantastic experience over 12 weeks this autumn. Again, I'll pop the link to that below, because life is too important for us just to mindlessly drift through. Let's begin to show some awareness to how we're spending our time. See you next time.